Let's take you live now to Brisbane and emergency authorities with an update on the far north Queensland flooding.
Everyone good?
Yeah.
We have seen incredible acts of bravery continuing today, with families saved from rooftops and locals lending a hand to look after their neighbours. Many rescues have continued throughout the day as they did last night, and I want to thank our first responders for their incredible work, but also those good Samaritans, those Queenslanders lending a hand, mate for mate. Including we've had reports of people using mustering, choppers and fishing boats to rescue strangers or people they know around town. Everyone's working incredibly hard. Significant rainfall has continued to hamper efforts to get aircraft into certain locations. All of our agencies have plans in place to manage the fatigue of officers who've been working around the clock. I want to ensure the people of far north Queensland know that we have people on standby, ready and waiting to get in there and to relieve those officers who are tired. An attempt was made to aerially evacuate Wudjil today, but unfortunately the rain and cloud is still too strong. Another attempt is now planned for 8 a.m. tomorrow. There's a very detailed plan underway for how to do that and then how to take care of them in the evacuation centre. The Bureau has officially cancelled the severe weather warning. We've seen water level drop over most of those catchments. It remains critical that the public continues to listen out for alerts. We're also hearing reports of wildlife. There are crocodiles in many of these waterways, so please take care around these floodwaters and especially take care if you're intending to drive. If the road is flooded, forget it, do not cross it. In some positive news, the Cairns Water Treatment Plant is now operating and is providing safe, clean water to the Cairns CBD and also to the Cairns Hospital. I want to thank the technicians who did a really great job of getting that operating again. It means we don't have to evacuate patients out of Cairns Hospital. The Defence Force has been providing fantastic support when and as needed. For example, they transferred blood from Townsville Hospital to Cairns Hospital to replenish their stock and then we're able to replace the blood taken from Townsville to Cairns to make sure Townsville didn't have to go without. I know there are still many residents without power, and for many that will continue to be the main inconvenience of this impact. Our power workers are working just as hard as they can to get that back up and running, but I know it's frustrating to be without power. I'll ask Laura from the Bureau to give the weather update.
Good afternoon. So as mentioned, the severe weather warning for heavy to intense rainfall was cancelled at 1:51 p.m. this afternoon due to declining rainfall rates in the area. So we're not seeing that very intense, very widespread rainfall anymore. We are still seeing some rainfall in the area, however. So this trend of easing rain is expected to continue. However, I want to make note that there's still a significant risk that we could see shower and storm activity. So while that widespread, very intense rainfall is moving on, there is still shower and storm activity in the area, which can still drop significant amount of rainfall, just not what we have been seeing in that past 24 hours. We will be issuing thunderstorm warnings as we move through the evening if they are required to inform residents if any particular storms are dropping significant amounts of rainfall. So in terms of the flood warnings, a number of flood warnings still remain current. So the major flood warning for the Daintree remains current, but we have started to see that river system decline as the rainfall starts to ease. Of note, we're still seeing severe flooding occurring in the Bloomfield River, so that's the river system that affects the community of Wudjil, but this will gradually ease as we do start to see those rainfall rates easing this evening and into tomorrow. So we have a moderate flood warning for the Barron River, so that has moved from major to moderate, so we are seeing a declining trend in that river system. And then in terms of our other warnings, we've got a major flood warning for the Herbert River, major for the Murray, moderate for the Tully. We're back down to a minor flood warning for the Mulgrave as well. So we're really just encouraging everyone in that area to stay up to date with the warnings, especially those riverine flood warnings as we start to see decreasing trends, and those thunderstorm warnings as we start to see potentially a little bit more rainfall activity. So stay up to date with what we're issuing there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Good afternoon, everyone. From the very outset, I just want to say what has taken place in the last 24 hours has been an extraordinary effort by all emergency services, but also by many members of the public in terms of the rescues that they have performed. Substantial rescues also took place today, and the State Disaster Coordinator will give you a little bit more detail about that. Thankfully, to date, there has been no deaths or serious injuries reported as a result. There is a report of a death of a 71-year-old man at Holloways. Please note that this is not in relation or as a result of the event. This was a medical episode. CERT operatives happened to be in Holloways Beach and applied CPR for a considerable period of time, but unfortunately that gentleman passed away. Substantial resources from the police and other emergency services are moving north already. Many of those are pre-positioned in Townsville, ready to move into Cairns hopefully tomorrow morning when the weather subsides. This is not only to assist in terms of responding to the event, but also assisting with the recovery from the event, to provide residents comfort that police are in the area, but to also patrol our roadways. The situation is still significant in that part of the world. Can I please ask, if you don't have to be on the roads, to not be on the roads? We are concerned about obviously people being caught in flash flooding. So always remember, if it's flooded, forget it. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. Good afternoon. We've undertaken a considerable number of rescues today, and we are still very much in the response phase of this event. The area of concern today remains up around Wujal and Dajara, where we know a local resident has been assisting authorities and has rescued 8 persons using a vessel in Dajara. This afternoon we made an attempt to get our emergency services aerial support into Wujal, but due to the weather we weren't able to do so. We've been in contact with the CEO of Wujal, who's confirmed that all persons there are safe and are on higher ground. There are considerable plans for the morning in conjunction with the ADF to be able to undertake an evacuation of Wujal, weather pending. And those people will go to Cooktown, and we're working with the Cooktown Council to receive those people in Cooktown. We had a further 5 people rescued at Mount Malloy today from houses, 3 adults, 2 children, who were on roofs of houses from last night, and we were able to get our emergency services helicopter into those people this afternoon. And we had another 15 people rescued from a hotel roof near Cooktown this afternoon. Thank you to a local member with a mustering chopper that the Cooktown Police were able to engage. Did an incredible effort in rescuing those 15 people at Cooktown. So as you can see, we are still very much in response phase across the community, and we have another rescue chopper currently operating in the Daintree area this afternoon. Could I say that we've engaged through the Disaster Management Network with all the councils, and we are actively planning to be able to resupply food, water and medical supplies into all of the isolated communities. And with weather opening tomorrow morning, we're hoping we can commence at first light in the morning. We've moved considerable assets this afternoon, aerial assets into Cairns, so we're pre-positioned, ready to go. And this morning I reported we had 307 people in our evacuation centre. I'm pleased to say that has now come down to 105. So can I just finish by thanking the community for working with us today. We've had considerable response today, and the community have been excellent. We've had no reports of people driving into floodwaters today. So if the community can keep working with us, another 24 hours, 48 hours, it'll stand us in good stead. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Operational tempo for Fire and Emergency Services continues to remain high, and I want to acknowledge all of our staff and volunteers from across Fire and Rescue Service, State Emergency Service and our Rural Fire Service teams that are out there and supporting the community. But I also would like to acknowledge our absolute gratefulness for community's responsiveness and support over the last number of days. It's been remarkable, and we continue to seek that support over the coming days. The key message hasn't changed for us. This event is not over. The risk remains real, and we need the community to continue to stay informed, make good decisions, heed advice as it comes out. And when you don't need to be out and about, don't be out and about. We've got a lot of damage, a lot of hazards in the space. We need people to continue to remain vigilant and avoid complacency as we move through these next couple of days. If it is a life-threatening emergency, reinforce, use 000. If it's non-life-threatening emergency, please use 132500 or the SES Assistance app. And final message, and I know it's been repeated, but if it's flooded, forget it. Don't walk, drive, or walk into our swiftwater and floodwater environments. Incredibly hazardous and brings great risk to life. So thank you very much.
I mentioned we've had great support from the ADF, and so I'd like to ask the Brigadier to talk more about that.
Good afternoon. Our people on the ground through Royal Australian Navy and the Australian Army continue to provide support. They're all local members of the community and working with Queensland Emergency Services wherever they can. With the weather clearing, we are able to support the Queensland State Government with radio reading support to move approximately 100 people up from Townsville to Cairns tomorrow to enable those people who've been on the ground some rest and recovery. We're also preparing to provide further support, if required, as the situation improves and we get better weather and a better understanding of what's happening on the ground. Thank you.
Can we just get your name and title, please?
Richard Peace, Brigadier, Commander 11th Brigade, Commander Joint Task Group 629.3. Bit of a mouthful. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Well, as the Premier said, it is frustrating for those residents of the region who have been without power now for several days. Around 90% of the households and businesses that lost power due to Cyclone Jasper have been restored. But power has now gone out in 45 communities because of the heavy inundation. So that sees 13,190 new households and businesses without power because of the heavy rainfall. We did plan to have power restored to all communities before the rain event started by the evening of Tuesday night. That expectation can no longer be met, and we will now see a longer period of restoration which could take several additional days. It's difficult to put a time frame on that now, as I'm sure everybody has seen the damage to the roads, the vegetation and the significant amount of water moving around the region still. A new restoration plan is being developed and we will update the public and the media as soon as we're able to do so. I also want to assure Far North Queenslanders that there are hundreds of power company crews ready and waiting for those waters to subside. We have crews as well ready to move up from Townsville and Rockhampton. They include crews that have already moved up from southwest Queensland as well to maximise and ensure that the process of restoration of power can be as rapid as possible once it's safe to do so. The other important piece of information to know is about the significance of the water moving down the Barron River. We have one of our clean energy power stations there, the Barron Gorge Hydro Power Station. There has been significant damage to the Kuranda Weir, which means that that power station is no longer able to operate and will be out of the system for several months. Importantly though, all 16 of the power station workers are safe. There won't be any access to the power station for some time. Notwithstanding, this is a key part of the generation system in North Queensland. I can still confirm that the power system has adequate supply to meet the demands of households and business going forward.
Well, one thing is for sure, when Mother Nature unleashes in Queensland, we always see Queenslanders at their best. And this weather event, of course, has been no exception. And we've seen Queenslanders at their best, not just with our dedicated frontline staff, but also with Good Samaritans throughout our state. So can we pass along a heartfelt thanks both to our frontline workers, but also to those Good Samaritans that have been assisting those in need right throughout our state through this weather event. There, of course, needs to be more work done through that recovery phase and through that assistance phase. And to those folks who are still waiting for that assistance, help is definitely on its way. We're still working through the weather event at the moment to be able to get the help that is needed to those locations. And it's positive news to see that the rain is easing and that we'll be able to do more of that in the aerial assistance space, but there still is a huge risk for our communities around riverine flooding. So while we'll be working very hard with communities to ensure that we can get people to safe places and we can get people to places where we can start recovery efforts, also, we're advising Queenslanders across the state to make sure that they're heeding all of the warnings that are coming out through the Bureau and ensuring that they stay out of floodwaters, avoid floodwaters, and of course follow all of that emergency warning advice as it becomes available.